Hello, welcome to the Comic Crush. This is 24 panels per second. This is our comic book, movie, and TV podcast. We've both popped up on the screen at the moment because there's something that's going wrong technically, and I'm too afraid to drop Liz out. But there's Liz.
Hi.
The one you've all turned up for. How you doing, Liz? Can you hear me okay this time?
I can hear you. Oh, good, I think we're back on track.
Yeah. So this is a new season of the show, our third, after our sort of truncated second season, just because there weren't that many releases last year, and I was moving house and stuff, and we just didn't get a chance to kind of get together and do as many podcasts as we like. I'm going to try and do a few this year, and obviously I'm thrilled, or just mildly excited to be chatting to Liz again. Liz is, of course, absolutely ecstatic, overwhelmed, or just whelmed to be talking to me.
Whelmed.
She didn't want me to say anything, but I can't. Why hold back? Why hold back on friendship and admiration like that, Liz? No.
I
don't know why you would. Today we are going to be talking about, as you might have seen at the beginning of the show, Captain America: Brave New World. Or just Brave New World, depending on your feeling. We're going to talk about our feelings on this movie. We do want to hear yours after the show, so feel free to hit us up in the comments or on any of the socials. This is the first. Is this the beginning of a new phase, Liz?
No, it's near the end of a phase. Yeah,
it's the end of a phase.
Well, we're almost there. Like I think Thunderbolts is maybe the end of the phase,
or phase 5 or 6. I can't even keep track anymore.
Yeah, no, I think we're at the end of phase 5.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that you can't even keep track.
I know. Well, it's tough. It's like it used to be really clear, whereas now there's like less defined edges.
So I've got to ask you before we go in, Liz, what was your kind of anticipation level like for this particular film before you went and saw it?
Well, I mean, you and I talked about it a little bit, maybe a week or two ago, where I think
it was longer than that.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know. No, it was about a week or two ago when we were sort of talking about how we were going to review it. Right. And I said that I had some worries about it because of all the stuff, all the chatter, everything that you've been hearing about, behind the scenes stuff. It's gone through loads of reshoots, and it was delayed quite a long ways from what it was originally meant to come out. And I sort of said, I'm a little worried. I hope it's good, as I always do.
Yeah, I wasn't as. I mean, yeah, no one. I don't think you go into these movies hoping they're bad, right? I mean, no one sits down at a movie and goes, "Oh, I hope this is crap."
There are people who go into those who come in with a chip on their shoulder, but I'm never one of them. I'm always hoping it's going to be great.
For me, I was not that concerned, to be honest. I felt the trailers looked good. I couldn't say I was kind of super excited about it. I was kind of, this is good, and I think this is going to be a good kind of tight political thriller. Now, sitting down to watch the movie, I noticed a very strange thing. I don't know if the rest of the audience saw it or if it's just me. I happened to blink at the moment it popped up, but in the opening credits of the movie, or the opening scene, it's just called Brave New World. There's no, as far as I could see, there was no Captain America sort of preamble to it. So it's not actually or it doesn't appear to be entitled Captain America: Brave New World. It just seems to be called Brave New World. So I'd love if the audience could kind of write in and tell us if anyone saw the words Captain America actually pop up on screen, because I didn't when I sat down to watch it.
I mean,
and you can't remember, right? I mean,
no, I can't remember. I can't remember if I saw in the like opening credits of the film whether it said that or not.
But
I mean, all of the advertising, you know, all the logos,
yeah, of course. I'm not debating what the movie's called.
Right. So yeah, but I could not confirm or deny.
But I just thought it was kind of weird that it didn't have, you know, Captain America: Brave New World branch all over it.
Originally, it wasn't going to be called Brave New World.
What was it going to be called?
New World Order, I think.
Ah, okay. Do you know what made them change it?
I don't.
Do you think it was just the
I mean, my conjecture would be that, you know, it's gone through so many rewrites that, you know, the title needed to be changed at a certain point.
Yeah. Because I would have thought it would have just been the kind of loose connections with the kind of more right-leaning sort of politics, and what that now implies, or what the words New World Order imply, because there's a slightly more conspiracy theory-esque feeling when you say New World Order than there is if you say Brave New World, although equally those titles come with their own kind of weight, you know, from Huxley and things like that, and that I thought it might have been a kind of more, you know, nod to that really. So going in, how did you feel about the movie? Like you're hesitant going in. Did you get more excited and more kind of behind it the closer it got to release day?
I mean, yeah, I always get more excited. Like, you know, the sooner I'm like, you know, oh, okay, I'm going to sit down and watch this movie, I get excited. You know, and I did not read any reviews before I went in, but I did happen to, like, you know, see that the Rotten Tomatoes score was not the best, you know, before I went in to see it, which was kind of too bad.
Well, I mean, I very rarely pay attention to the Rotten Tomatoes score because I just don't care. Like 48%, though, wasn't it? Something like that.
52, I think.
52. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I
do and I don't. I usually, like, you know, I prefer to not know what the Rotten, you know, what reviews are saying or what, you know, Rotten Tomatoes scores, etc. Before I watch it. But I do take interest after I watch something. Then I go and read reviews and I'm interested in what other people's opinions are. Mm-hmm. You know, compared, you know, whether they, you know, are aligned with my own or not.
Mm. And at a certain point, you also stop watching the advertising, right? You're kind of you try and consciously avoid the trailers and things like that.
At a certain point, if they're just like, if they're releasing too much, then I stop. I like to watch the first, you know, the main trailers, but if they start showing, you know, like little clips and things like that, I try not to.
I mean, the general consensus I was getting at the going into the film was that that some people were annoyed that there hadn't been enough advertising for it. I kind of get that, but at the same time, here in the UK, there certainly seems to have been a ton. Like there's no way you could have known this wasn't coming out. Okay. But also we are still in the kind of wake of the superhero apathy that's kind of been permeating lately, that everyone felt had been dispelled with Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm not sure that's the case.
I think people loved that movie and they were super excited about that movie, but you know going in that this is not going to be, you know, Deadpool and Wolverine. It's you know, it's got a much more serious tone. You're not there for comedy. You're not there for like over the top violence. You know, it's back to kind of, you know, theoretically more of the, you know, Marvel template.
Yeah. Do you have a synopsis there of what the film was actually about? Because we haven't really talked about that. Just
why not? Yeah, let's go straight, you know, into the synopsis. Anthony Mackie returns as the high-flying hero Sam Wilson, who's officially taken up the mantle of Captain America. After meeting with newly elected U.S. President Thaddeus Ross, Sam finds himself in the middle of an international incident. He must discover the reason behind a nefarious global plot before the true mastermind has the entire world seeing red.
Right. So that's a good vague. And interestingly enough, that synopsis is more vague than any of the trailers or things were, or adverts were, because there's no doubt as to what the Seeing Red reference.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah.
Okay. So we're going into this. We know roughly what to expect. It's going to be a political thriller, maybe, or hopefully along the lines of Winter Soldier. And to a certain extent, I feel Civil War kind of falls into that category as well. So you're seated there with your popcorn. Liz, did you get the film you wanted?
No.
I knew it. I knew it. So, okay. I mean, I found myself staggeringly frustrated throughout this film.
Yeah.
And in watching the story, and I think part of the problem is, I mean, maybe we should leave this bit to later, but because it concerns the sort of end chunk of the film. Okay. But I think part of the problem is you had no doubt about how this film was going to end going in and what was going to take place. And yeah, I feel that ultimately, having now seen the film, that worked to the picture's detriment in a massive way.
I agree. If if what you're referencing is like Red Hulk, it's like, that, I mean, and I get why they did it. They, they wanted to get as many butts in chairs as possible. So they had to show that in the trailer, but it does actually take the wind out of the sails of, them building up to it in the film.
Because then you're only left really with one surprise in this film. And it really isn't that much of a surprise, or maybe two. One of which there was literally maybe one thing I was surprised at, which also had to do with the way the picture was advertised.
Should we go straight to? I mean,
no,
do you want to say what that is yet, or
build up to it slowly if you want? I mean, I mean, right from the get go, my problem with the film was that that just every scene just felt off.
Yeah, I would agree.
Just there was something about every scene that just felt off. That just felt slightly badly paced. I think that the weird thing is, it's like Julius Ona, is it?
Yeah.
Director.
Oh no.
He's said that his favorite Marvel is the Winter Soldier, and I felt that what we got was essentially the same film again. Just done with
poorly.
and staged quite badly. Now, I wonder. Sorry, it's really hard to talk about this the way we normally would, where we go through kind of sequence by sequence.
Right.
And the reason is because the film's been reshot quite extensively by all accounts, but we don't know what those reshoots were, or I don't anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we don't maybe have to go through it in a linear way this time. I think, I think what you're saying there about the reshoots, which, was reported on extensively, and the fact that, there were multiple screenwriting, teams that it passed through. Like, it feels very much like there were multiple drafts of the script.
Which there are in every movie, and especially big movies. They will have, and as much as you see those people credited, I guarantee you there were probably more people behind the scenes working on it and rewriting it.
This one, I would say that you really feel it this time. It feels like major plot things were like cobbled together. Like, you can tell at one point that it was going to be about something else, but then they needed to add, you know, plot point X, you know, to like, and it just feels really like multiple stories Frankensteined together.
Yeah. And much like this podcast, it's no flow. There's just no flow to it. And that really started to bug me right from the beginning, because you could just feel the scenes kind of not quite, even moment to moment, action to action, shot to shot. It's like this doesn't quite hold together. And I felt like almost there had been a good version of the movie that everyone was sort of happy with, and for some reason they just decided to start tinkering, and whatever money they gave for the reshoots was probably not as much as it should have been, and therefore loads of scenes had been injected where it was just people standing around talking. Like,
right.
the a lot of the exposition doesn't get done. Again, like, if you want to see good exposition in a movie, go watch the original Terminator, where all the exposition is done in the middle of action scenes whilst they're being shot at, or whilst they're driving in a car to get away from the big bad, you know. And it just feels like here you had lots of scenes where they just time out. We're going to do a bit of plotting now.
I mean, it was very, very heavy-handed, like the, you know, expository dialogue, you know, and it was very, like, you just had it sort of shoveled at you, you know. It was like the whole sequence where they introduce like Isaiah Bradley to Danny Ramirez's character, like the new Falcon. It's like basically he was just there to sum up for whoever didn't watch Falcon and Winter Soldier. Who Carl Lumley's character is. He's like, oh, you're the super soldier who was in jail for 30 years and did this and that. And, you know, it's like, just, you know, it's just so cumbersome. Like, you know, the
thing is, that could have all been dispensed with in a proper credit sequence. You know, that could have all been kind of done in a really good, tight opening few minutes, or 15 minutes, or 5 minutes even. And how powerful would it have been for the film and the message that the film wanted to get across if there's a shot of Isaiah Bradley and the title of the film, Captain America, comes up on that image. Right. How much power would that have had? Would have had a lot. Would have had a lot more power than the freaking rest of the film. I'll tell you that. And I just began to feel really kind of like, I mean, I felt like, you know me, like, I love my film scores. I love film soundtracks. And on my way to go and see this movie, I just before I left the house, I downloaded on Spotify the album for this. And I started listening to music. It's like, oh, it's just like, I know Laura Cartman's a good composer. It's just like some of this feels a bit odd. Like this doesn't really chime with the movie I've seen in the trailers, which, you know, isn't the movie itself, and I accept that. And then when I got into the film, the score was so omnipresent, and it literally over every freaking scene, there was a bit of music on every single moment. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 moments in the entire film that aren't scored. And it's all the wrong, it feels like all the wrong music. Not because her composing is bad, but because I wonder if they sort of composed for one version of the film and were just like, we're not paying for another score, just retrack the music over.
Right. Yeah. I actually did think the score was very good, but I felt like, you know, again, it was like overdone.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like it was compensating for, you know, maybe some inadequacies in what was actually happening, you know?
And it was trying to interject tension where there was none. And in fact, the only people that end up getting tense are the audience, because they can probably, they've got that creeping feeling that something isn't quite right with what they're watching. And the film doesn't really use that to its advantage, because when you look at it, look at the separate scenes. So I mean, we have the president, Harrison Ford, playing Thunderbolt Ross, replacing the sort of dearly departed William Hurt, you know, which is a very sad loss for kind of acting. He was a terrific actor, and I think Ford's acknowledged that. And it's great to see a real kind of huge movie star, because he's probably the biggest star they've ever had in a Marvel movie, which is great. But I feel like to a certain extent, his presence starts to kind of tip the whole thing, because you're more interested in watching Harrison Ford than you are Anthony Mackie or
It's
Daniel
absolutely
Ramirez.
true. Absolutely true.
And the only other person I was really interested in watching, I think, was Carl Lumley.
Yeah.
And maybe Shira Haas, who's a terrific actor as well. And I didn't
really connect with her character at all.
No, I didn't connect with the character, but I've seen her acting in other things and loved it, and been like, oh, actually, yeah, I'm really interested in watching her, because I want to see what she's doing next.
Okay, because I was totally unfamiliar with her, and I didn't care about her character one way or the other. I did care about and only because he's got so much charisma, but I would have liked to see more of Giancarlo Esposito, because that was just, I felt like a waste, of like this actor who, surely should have this big ongoing role in these films, and it felt like this kind of throwaway character.
And it's weird, because he gets introduced, you know nothing about this Serpent Society, before someone goes, "Ooh, the Serpent Society," So they're a totally kind of non-threat, really. And it doesn't really seem to be much of a society either. It just seems to be Giancarlo Esposito. Like, that's it. It's like,
right,
we're on the society of one. There used to be more of us, but we switched the meeting nights, and unfortunately, it didn't really chime with a lot of people's schedules. And I feel like he was kind of semi-wasted and reduced to just spouting badassisms at Sam Wilson, at Anthony Mackie, and they sort of trade off mean looks and try and outman each other almost, which is very kind of antithetical to the message that Marvel have sent before, because although Marvel is a very male dominated series of movies, they're not really about chest pumpery, and if anything, they've kind of done a lot to disable that, which isn't a bad thing. But here, you just have them kind of puffing up. Well, when I get out of prison, I'll kill you. No, I'll get you. No, right. You're not getting out of prison. And it's just like, oh, shut up. Come on.
Yeah. Like, but I mean, but in talking about, like, all of these characters who actually kind of had good moments and, like, were interesting, it's like it is a really strange thing that Sam feels like a secondary character in his own movie.
Yeah.
And, this was like, okay, we've got a new Captain America. What's that going to look like? And it was like, oh, well, I don't know. He's just, doing what he normally does, except in a Captain America uniform. Like, I feel like they explored all the interesting stuff in Falcon and Winter Soldier, about whether he wanted to take the mantle or, and like there were some really interesting ideas explored with that. But here in the film, you have to, go in knowing that, like, probably there's about 70% of your audience who won't have watched Falcon and Winter Soldier. So
yeah, do you think so? Because I don't know. I mean, I feel like Marvel are just making movies for Marvel fans now.
Maybe they think that, but I mean, like, a lot of the people who go to the cinema to watch them are not people who, are going to watch every Disney Plus show.
Okay. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure I fully agree. But actually, no, maybe you're right. I don't know. You might be.
I think all the voices you're hearing, like, chime in about it are probably the people who watch Disney Plus shows. But like, as far as just people going to the movies with their kid who wants to see Captain America because it's like a superhero movie.
Yeah, and I guess that's got to be difficult. And again, all things they could have caught up on with a sort of previously on credit sequence. Do you know what I mean? It's all things they could have.
I mean, I think that they don't need to do that. I think that they just need to be a lot more clever about how they, refresh the audience who hasn't seen the back matter. Like, you don't have to say like, oh, well, I was worried about taking the suit and now I've got it. But you just give him another bit of internal conflict about it. There was no, I mean, like they almost kind of tried to like feed you the idea that there was one at one point, but it was just never fully realized. Like, oh, okay, well, how do I stack up against Steve? Oh, like, should I have taken this super soldier serum? That's like an interesting, thing to explore here, but they didn't really do it. Like, they almost like played like they were going to, but they didn't. I mean, have him get like the crap beat out of him. Like have like some superpowered character just like beat him to a pulp and have him then wonder like, oh, when he's out of the suit, like, because there was a scene where there was a scene where he gets stabbed and like, a scene where he breaks his ribs, but he just kind of shakes it off. Like have a scene where he just gets leveled because he's not wearing the suit, and have him then say, oh, am I just a suit? Like, and like, just make you care about what his thoughts and emotions are. Because they really don't. Like the closest you get to that is there's some throwaway mentions of him saying, oh, well, maybe I should have taken the serum, and I don't know. That's just, because you've now got this juxtaposition between Sam and Steve, and like the biggest difference is one of them is superpowered and one of them is not.
Yeah. And it would have been maybe more interesting to have the missions in the film progressively get more dangerous and more kind of, maybe escalate a bit more so that he really has to wrestle with that. Because, let's not forget the Hulk kind of, not serum, but the thing that created the Hulk is the same thing that creates Captain America, just perverted. Because if you go all the way back to the Incredible Hulk movie, that's how Banner becomes the Hulk, because he's messing around with the super serum at Ross's request. Because funny enough, that was the one movie I did start to take a look at again before I went to see this was the Incredible Hulk,
which I haven't watched in a long time, but I've seen it a couple times. Like,
and I've got to say, unlike this movie, it actually has character development and interesting character moments and interesting stuff happening. And this didn't really.
Yeah, I mean, like, the closest thing, to like an emotional core that you get with this movie is it happens with Harrison Ford. Happens with like, him sort of pining for his daughter who, he's estranged from. Carl Lumbly's character, Isaiah Bradley, you get some really good emotional moments with him.
Yeah.
In that he's like almost, being forced to go back to jail and all that stuff. And that stuff really does great. Like hit home, like that really does emotionally resonate. And that was great. But again, like the character you're empathizing with there is him. It's not Sam.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really loved all that stuff with Lumley. I because you're aware at every moment he could snap those people in half and just be on his way out of that jail. But he's promised Sam that he won't do that. And I thought that stuff was really, really interesting. And that has a lot of resonance, and it has a lot of resonance for people of color, and you know, it has a lot of resonance for the audience. And also, like, where were his kids? Because he's got kids and grandkids, hasn't he? Like in as I remember from the Falcon and the Winter
Soldier. Elijah Bradley. You know, it doesn't turn up in this movie, but he was in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
But why not? Like, it's like, where are they?
Well, that is a perfectly good question. And it's like, well, they don't really try and answer it. No. They, you know, there are some glaring moments like that where it's like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense. I mean, also, like, and I mean, do you want to talk about the moment with like the, you know, cameo that did actually surprise me, but then
did it surprise? It was one of the worst things I've seen. I mean, we are talking about the same thing, right? Bucky.
Yeah. Right. Like, so I mean, that didn't work for me at all. As much as I was like, oh, it's Bucky. Like, I love Bucky. Oh, great. Well, here he is. Let's see what they do. It was so awkward, and it just
perfunctory.
It was perfunctory, but it also didn't make sense. It was like, oh, okay, why isn't, you know, Isaiah Bradley's grandson in it? Okay, I mean, it seems weird, but, you know, okay, I can live with that. But this was like, Bucky shows up to give Sam a pep talk. Like, you know, this very perfunctory pep talk where, you know, it's like, it's literally like, you know, I will read off some inspirational dialogue to you right now and give you, you know, the boost you need to get there, Sam. You know, and then, like, you know, it's like, well, I gotta go. You know.
my Uber's here.
Yeah, well, you know, good luck.
Just look at the watch on my metal arm. Yep.
Uber's here. Good luck. Love you, buddy.
Yeah. Bye. And also, what the Bucky's running for Congress?
Like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Like, no context for that. Nothing.
So we've got no context for the Serpent Society, no context for Bucky running for Congress, no real context for Harrison Ford running for president, or Thunderbolt Ross running for president. That's all stuff that's dealt with off screen, and all of that stuff together would have made a more interesting movie. Because when you think about it, wouldn't it have been great to see Bucky and Sam be the linchpins of the next phase? Like, wouldn't have that?
Like the congressman thing, I just don't get it. It really, like, you know, I was totally baffled by that. Like, there was no build up to that, like, at all.
Okay, and you can back me up here, Liz, because, well, if you remember, which you probably won't, because Liz's recall of Marvel movies is fantastic. Recall of actual conversations that Liz and I have had, about 3%. So a few years back, we actually got into an argument, not a big serious argument, just a kind of a
regular argument,
debate.
A regular
argument.
You know,
a Tuesday, as we like
right? Say. Yeah, you know. Which one?
Because I said that I felt that Marvel would completely drop the ball by not having an MCU set series of comics to fill in some of the gaps. Just written by good writers, you know, just come on and do like a little mini series or some one shots and stuff like that. And I feel fully freaking vindicated.
Okay, I still disagree.
Because this is exactly what would have solved some of these problems. And also, guess what? It would have driven people towards comics. And it really infuriated me sitting there watching this, going, well, you could have done that in a one-shot issue. You could have done that in a one-shot issue. You could have explained who the Serpent Society are, you know, and I just sat there stewing the whole time over, one, obviously, how wrong you are again. Like,
no,
but that's a regular feeling.
Yeah, no,
that's a regular feeling.
No, yeah. See, I see where you're going with this. I see where you're going with this, but you know, it's I think that the comics are the comics, and the movies, should be the movies.
Again, no.
And I think that basically, if you're putting it into print, you're making it canon, and therefore, you're taking away potentially the ability of some other writer to come in and say, well, this actually, here's like what I, envisioned in this little gray area period. Like you're then basically
I don't
limiting
agree.
what the directors can do.
No, I don't agree, because not everything should be covered in the movies. But here they seem to have just lost sight of what actually would have been interesting and exciting.
I agree with that.
And you can have an alternate universe that doesn't affect the regular Marvel comics universe. So you can have an MCU comics universe. Like you can have anything you want, as DC's Elseworlds.
I know what I mean is. What I mean is you're limiting what the writers of the films can do.
No, yeah, but I don't think you are, because it's as with Star Wars, they just have to accept. Oh yeah, that bit of canon's been done in that form. So and what's wrong with pushing the writers to be more inventive?
I mean, I think they want to leave like their slate as clean as possible for whatever they decide to do. I think in theory you should be able to work out, who the Serpent Society is, just by reading a Marvel comic and understanding that they are, they can kind of put their own spin on it. Like one character who I do want to mention, they basically completely rewrote for the film is Sabra, like Ruth Batsroff, Shira Haas's character.
Yeah.
Because she, like in the comics, is a completely different character. She's like an Israeli mutant.
So I think the reason that's been done is because of the ongoing conflict in Palestine. I think it's got something to do with that. And I suspect some of the reshoot,
but I think it's really a weird choice to choose that character if you're just gonna completely turn her into a different character. Just choose another character.
I suspect that in the first version of the film, she hewed much closer to the mutant version, because I think there has been like some people have been calling for a boycott of this film because her character's in it. Now, what they don't say in the film, this version of the film, and what they don't mention is, because they mention she was born in Israel but then trained in the Red Room, and I think that's the bit that's been added, because most Israelis, in fact, nearly all Israelis, go through military service, like they have to. And I think if they had said that, it would have been viewed as kind of sympathizing with the Israeli government and military. And I wonder if that's why that was done, if indeed that was changed. I don't know, but I've got a feeling it was.
It feels like her character was completely rewritten, but they should have really just chosen a different character if they were going to go, if they were going to go that route. It just seems...
sure. I mean, I've got no. I don't want to talk about that conflict because I don't know enough to be sitting here talking about it, and
neither do I. I mean, I'm more just talking about for the sake of the movie.
Yeah. But I mean, one, I didn't really have that much faith in a boycott, because one thing you've always got to remember is you are dealing with fictional characters, and to a certain degree, it kind of does not matter what fictional characters do against the real world. I mean, yes, the fiction is a good allegory for the real world and all that, but it kind of it's like. It's like famous people telling you to go out and vote for. Doesn't fucking matter. At the end of the day, doesn't matter. Not real people. You've got to concentrate on what's real, and this is fantasy and all that. And as much as seriously as we're taking it now, going, oh, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that?
Right. I mean, I feel like her role was also probably scaled back. Like she feels like a weird character. She feels incongruous with, everybody else in the film, I feel. And you know, I feel like, you know, a lot of what they were planning to do with her must have gotten shelved or changed.
And also, who was the woman working for the Secret Service that Sam was sort of
had a little like I don't know if she was meant to be any particular, like that's something I actually meant to look up, because you know she seemed to be kind of an important character. She was like Ross's like aide, essentially, like his.
Because at first I thought, is that supposed to be Sam's, like one of Sam's relatives?
No,
but I was
but you see that there's like, you know, it seems like they've got a you know, a dynamic between them, and it's never really explained.
And the trouble I have with that is it speaks to a problem that keeps popping up in this film, which is everyone in the movie knows a guy that can help. Oh, I know a guy that can, and that was it. Every time there was a problem presented where some bit of information had to be discovered, someone went, "Oh, I know a guy that can help with that." And rather than being someone kind of like taking the opportunity for some Marvel cameos or anything like that, it's just like some random dude or some random woman. It's just like, everyone knows a guy who knows a guy, but it just they anchored so much of the plot on, you know, things some guy could tell them, and it's just like, like what is going on? If all the problems in the MCU could be solved like this,
yeah,
you know, what's the point of the movies? Oh, don't worry. What's he done? Oh, he snapped half the world out of existence. I know a guy that can fix that. Give me a second. I'll just call him. So, all right. And also, if you can find out all this information, surely some of it could have been stopped before it ever got too far down the line. Before, I don't know, the president of the United States turns into a great big fucking Hulk. Maybe.
Might be good.
And that was, I mean, so how do you feel about the returning character here of the leader?
Oh,
right?
Paul, like I thought, you know, and I don't know, I think he was fine in the Incredible Hulk movie. I thought this was maybe the worst villain that we've had in the MCU.
I'm sorry, but the thing is, all throughout the movie, you have those moments of just seeing him kind of in the shadows,
in like half shadow, like, you know, under a hat or whatever.
And then when they switch the lights on, you finally see him. You realize why. It's because he looks fucking stupid. It's just like,
yeah, I mean, this was like, I mean, you know, obviously, I mean, if you know what the character looks like in the comics, it's maybe even more ridiculous in the comics, but this is the MCU. It's like, you know, there's a degree of like, you know, grounding it in some sort of reality, where it's like, okay, you know, like this guy doesn't have to have like brains popping out of his skull and everything to indicate that he's really smart. You know, it's like, just have him be like a normal guy, but have him look, you know, maybe kind of messed up. But I mean, that was just, you know, he just looked like he had a big like broccoli head. And like, it was just like, silly. It was just, I like, you know, I mean, he's a fine actor, but I thought his delivery was just like cartoon caricature villain.
But I think, again, it might have been a victim of the reshoots, or he was responding to a completely different edit of the movie. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it was just because it just came across as so silly, just like so over the top, silly, like, you know, mustache twirling, you know, like let me tell you my evil plan, like. And like at the end, carry on. Yeah,
but it's just, and also the big plan is to turn president into a Hulk, and it's just like no.
It's like
really.
you've had 16 years hanging out in this basement to like think about your perfect revenge, and this was it. Like,
yeah,
and it took you that long to get him to go into Hulk mode when you've been dosing him with these pills for 16 years.
And again, just felt perfunctory.
I mean,
it just felt totally perfunctory. Now, the only interesting thing is that when you look at the way the movie was trailed and what the movie actually was, the trailers made it seem like the president was the big bad guy, and the leader was going to be kind of the one, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, like you've got like in Buffyverse, like you've got like the big bad, the little bad, and like then you have your like kind of like villain of the week, whatever.
The big brain and the little brain in this case,
right? Yeah, like you kind of felt like Harrison Ford was going to be the big bad, but he wasn't.
No, but also I can't. If you look at all the performances or the previous appearances of Thunderbolt Ross, I just don't fully buy him being that naive.
Right.
Like, I just don't.
No, I mean, like that whole subplot, I just felt like, what are you doing? Why are we even? Why are we here? Like, why did you even need the leader in this movie? You didn't. Like, give us more of like the Serpent Society. Make them the sort of big bad. Do something interesting with
if
those
you're going
characters.
if you're going to bring the leader in, bring AIM back, and retroactively making the one who orchestrated the Mandarin and orchestrated Gillian Aldrich.
Like, yeah, it's like, what is it? What's he? Like, I can't remember. Maybe they said, but it's like, okay, well, what has this guy actually been doing in the basement for 16 years? I mean, he's like, obviously,
he's been
giving Ross the like gamma irradiated heart pills, but what else? I mean,
he's been running his political campaign. Like, that's what he's been doing.
I mean, okay.
It's just so bad. And also, again, perfunctory scenes of I'm going to talk at you for a little bit, and then you can talk at me, and then I'll talk at you some more. And at the end, I'll still be the one who ends up on the floor with guns pointed at my head. So,
yeah, like,
and it what cracks me up. I think there was the moment where I literally burst out laughing in the cinema. Was when it time jumps, apparently, without actually telling you it's time jump. They just do it in dialogue to the raft, and Harrison Ford's there in prison, and they're literally Sam Wilson is literally going to him, oh, so is that why you resigned the presidency 3 months ago? He's like, yes, because it was the arriving and it was just like, what is this, man? This is fucking like, this is appallingly bad.
Right.
This is appallingly bad. It's just
right. Yeah. It's like, right. I know. It's just like, okay, well, when all else fails, let's, tell not show.
It's like watching 24. Like
24 was good though.
No, yeah, but with not as much style, because if you ever listen to the dialogue in 24, it's all designed for people who are just switching over to the show after an ad break. Right. And it's like, where's Jack? Well, Jack's gone to get that guy. Oh, is that the guy who's got the memory stick that's got the information? Yes, it's that guy. Okay, he's gonna get him. Okay.
But 24 was so tense that you always bought that, it was like always kind of fine. It just flowed like, like, okay, because there was so much like intense action, which I think is kind of weirdly what they do here to kind of make you forget, like, about like the fact that, like, the dialogue isn't going very well, and like, all this stuff. This was like one long action sequence, but without the actual tension that 24, like at least in the first early seasons, provided.
Yeah, and that's the trouble with it. It's like all the action is again perfunctory. It's just we'll put the camera there, we'll have some stuff here, we'll maybe move the camera a little bit, and there just wasn't enough kind of elan or panache or style to it, and it's just like and when you again, like I know that Winter Soldier was Julius Runner's favorite, but you look at the way Bucky is handled in the Winter Soldier, and then you look at the way they handle Giancarlo Esposito's character Sidewinder in this, and it's like you had the opportunity to make him as menacing as
Bucky,
the Winter Soldier was. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
but instead you just want him to keep, and he keeps talking. What does he feel like saying to him? Just shut up.
Just shut up.
Shut up. It's the way you feel about me right now.
But, yeah, I mean, usually.
Go on. Yeah, just remember which one of us fell asleep in the middle of the podcast because someone wouldn't stop talking, Liz. Okay.
Yeah, well, that so, one, that's still on you. You were just missing out on my genius thoughts. Anyway, that actually brings me to a point that I did want to talk about. Well, for one thing, okay, what you just mentioned there too, and the parallels between Winter Soldier and this movie, which it's obviously kind of almost aspiring to be this Winter Soldier type film. And right down to the fact that you've got a brainwashed super soldier, who does something terrible in front of everyone, and you've got to exonerate him, and it's literally kind of on the nose if you look, Isaiah and Bucky, it's kind of the same thing, but yeah, I think this goes back to me talking about eternal conflict and personal stakes. Sam does not, when you think about the dynamic between Steve and Bucky and everything that made Winter Soldier so powerful, was his investment in Bucky as a person, and and that that outweighing all of his instincts to stop him and potentially have to put him down for the safety of the world. You have these huge personal stakes for Steve. And here you really, Sam just does not have any of that. He's in a Hulk sequel, for one thing.
Yeah.
It's it also, that it doesn't make sense that, Banner's not there. All of these characters that, that are showcased here are characters that Sam has no previous real dynamic with. You could say he did with Ross, but you'd be way more interested in seeing Bruce Banner in the situation.
Yeah, and that is the kind of trouble, is that they seem to be making a film that's like Winter Soldier, or they want to make a film that's like Winter Soldier, and actually they should have made a film that's like Civil War, and that is what it could have been. There's loads of things they could have done other than turn in. Also, let's talk about him being Red Hulk. Now, I've got no problem with that if he's still General Thunderbolt Ross. But if he's the president, again, I think it's kind of freaking stupid.
It's goofy.
I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
And I think it's a thing that would have worked in the comics.
Right.
Perfectly well. But doesn't work in film. And even in the comics, I'm willing to bet that if you'd gone onto a Reddit thread, there would have been no end of people going, "This is fucking stupid."
Yeah, it is really silly. When you see him bash up the White House at the end, it's just kind of cringy. It's the president is hopping around on top of the White House as an angry red rage monster.
Yeah. It was just yeah, I don't know. It just.
And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I actually did like the Hulk fight sequences. Like, I actually thought those were fun, but it just came way too late in the game. And it was like you said, it was anticlimactic because you already knew it was going to happen in the film, but then they just didn't do it until almost the end of the film. If it had happened maybe midway through the film and then you've got like the rest of the film's a Red Hulk movie, cool. But it wasn't that.
I don't know. I kind of feel like that's almost something that should have happened at the beginning of the movie. And then the mystery could have been, you could have had Thunderbolt Ross in prison and having to ask Sam Wilson, can you find out why this happened and how this happened? And that'd be the thriller.
That'd be pretty cool, actually. Yeah, I think I like that. Like version of the movie better than the one we got. Definitely.
And in a movie so stuffed with just shit happening. We haven't even talked about one of the most crucial things it brings up, which is one, it kind of, it goes back to what's now Celestial Island.
Yeah.
So they finally address that, and I feel like a lot of this film was just to better wrap. Listen, we need to kind of put this in because
we haven't mentioned it in a while. Like, there's a giant like celestial sticking out of the ocean.
And there's a filmmaker, funny enough, called I think it's called Joe Russo, but he's not
one of the Russo brothers.
No, and he gets mistaken for him all the time. And he actually isn't that guy, and he makes a lot of fun. But he is a filmmaker, and he makes a lot of light over the fact that he sometimes gets emails meant for, and
right.
But he's a really interesting guy to follow online, and he makes sort of low budget movies, and every year he'll do. So today marks 1 year since this popped up in the Indian Ocean and no one's mentioned it in a Marvel movie. And then the next year it'll be, today marks 2 years since this popped up in a Marvel movie and no one's mentioned it. And he's done that for about the last 4 or 5 years.
Right, yeah. So now that he's finally like trolled them into mentioning it,
But I feel like that's what it is. It's like, oh Christ, actually, we keep forgetting about that. And of course the discovery of adamantium.
Right. Okay, so like that, that feels like, oh, okay, here's a major plot point that's, gonna push the whole franchise forward, and we better mention it now. But okay, I mean the context being that this, celestial island like is full of adamantium, and all these world powers are fighting over it.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, I was like, well, doesn't that like just kind of like make Wolverine like a lot less impressive if all of these countries, just they're, they're all like splitting up the tons of adamantium, like, it's like, well, then who's he? Like, who cares? Oh, you've got some of that stuff, so do I. I'm using it to make my silverware.
And also, Wolverine's past doesn't really work if this stuff came from space now, like comes from a celestial being now. It only works if like there's been a celestial being on Earth before, and I don't think there has there.
I mean, not that I know, but like, obviously they can like, do whatever they want there, but it's like, to me, it just like, it kind of takes the wind out of the sails of Wolverine and how cool adamantium is if, this enormous celestial, has this great supply of it that, American world leaders are fighting over the use of. It's like, okay, well, that kind of, like, whereas like with vibranium, it's like, oh, okay, the Wakandans have all of it, and, are extremely selective in who gets to use it. Whereas, if there's just this big island full of it, I mean, I don't know.
And also, I felt that, okay, great. This movie is now going to build up to a sting at the end of the credits or midway through the credits that's going to be about Wolverine. or where someone's at least, or you're going to see Stryker. You know, you're going to see Stryker, and Stryker's going to say, "Well, actually, adamantium's been around for decades, and there's going to be something." But instead, what we get is
really lame.
Sam steps. So this is what I don't get.
Right. I mean, the post-credit scene was. I mean, I would say almost not worth staying for. You know, because it's all the way at the end. You don't even get it as a mid-credit. You have to stay all the way to the end. And
I actually took the opportunity while the credits were going on to look up on my phone, because I switched my phone back on by that point, because it's just like I'm bored now, and look up to see if there was an end credit sequence.
So did I.
Because it's just like, oh, actually, I can just pop to the loo or go home maybe. And what instead you just get, again, a perfunctory scene. Oh, well, there's other worlds.
Right. Oh, yeah, I know. It's like, okay, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, but we know, because we're already into the multiverse phase and have been in the multiverse phase for quite a while now. So we already know that. And
we've already done more exciting teasers for the X-Men, you know?
And it's just like, oh, God's sake.
Yeah. I mean, it was just that was I mean, I will always stay, you know, I'll always stay for these things, but like, you know, it was like, really though.
That could be the title of your autobiography, couldn't it? The woman who stayed for all those end credits.
Yeah.
All those pointless moments.
Here's another thing. You know, you kind of want like an end credit scene to be like, oh, here's like a cool cameo or something, you know, something that's going to genuinely surprise you. Here's another thing. It's like, if they were going to like, you know, give me Betty Ross, it should have, you know, they should just never have mentioned that she was going to be in the movie. That could have been a cameo that surprised people, because it was literally, she was in it for 30 seconds and she had 2 lines at the very end of the movie. It would have been like, it would have been a nice surprise if you didn't think she was going to be in it.
Well, and also,
so to actually bill her as like, you know, being in it felt very, very disappointing if you actually wanted to see the character. She's not in the movie. She's mentioned in the movie.
The thing is, like, Liv Tyler, as far as I know, I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, but Liv Tyler's retired. Like, she's retired from acting. And she retired quite a while ago. So it's not like we're going to see more of Betty Ross.
So why even mention, you know, why not just have it be a pleasant surprise? Like, I think they got all that stuff wrong. Like, you know, it's like, if you like want the audience to get excited, like, just don't say that she's in the movie. Yeah. And, you know, instead of getting anyone's hopes up that she might actually have an actual role.
And I'm not even sure we'll see Harrison Ford again.
After this. Yeah. I mean,
because I don't think he really likes signing those long-term contracts anymore, because he's always been doubtful about that since going back to Star Wars, you know. And I don't know.
I mean, I actually, you know, I mean, as far as like any story in the film, I thought his was the most interesting. I thought he gave a really great performance. You know, I think he was totally committed. He was like, he was not phoning it in. You know, and I enjoyed watching him. And, you know, and if this is his only, you know, entry in the franchise, like, I'm really happy with what he did. But, you know, I do think it's kind of a shame that it wasn't in a better film.
Yeah, I mean, it just, this is not the film that I wanted it to be, or it's not as interesting or as fun as I wanted it to be.
Yeah, it was, and like the level of fun, I would agree, wasn't really there. Whereas like, other Marvel films, it's like you're used to a certain level of jokes and, tongue-in-cheek moments, and this didn't really have any of that.
Yeah, and there was a distinct lack of excitement in this, I felt. And do you know what? I've had more fun and excitement doing this podcast than I've done. I had watching the movie. And it's not really that often I feel excited to see you, to be honest, Liz. But in this particular case, I was I'm kidding. But no, I've had more fun doing this than I had watching that stupid movie. And
yeah, I mean, like, because I always feel better after I complain about something, and if it's let me down.
The best thing to come out of this was, so earlier on, guys, I phoned Liz just to check that we were going to be doing the podcast, and we were still on for the time we agreed. Liz said to me, funny enough, I've just been telling my mum about the film.
I was.
Yes, I just. like you're a teenager and you've just come home from seeing the movie and you're going to bore your parents to death with it.
I will bore anyone with it. It's like I feel like I haven't even really watched it until I get to sound off about it.
What's funny about this film? I don't know were you there in time for the trailers and things?
Yeah, I was.
Right. So over here, I don't know if you got the same trailer, but over here we had a trailer for. Didn't get a trailer for Fantastic Four. Bizarre. Like I think we would have got the FF trailer, but we had a trailer for a film by Paul W.S. Anderson, who is, funny enough, the father of Eva Anderson, who played the young Natasha Romanoff in the Black Widow movie. Not my favourite film director. It has to be said.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a very, polarizing.
Yeah.
I'm not, I have to say I'm not the biggest fan either, but a lot of people love his films.
He directed Resident Evil. He directed a lot of the Resident Evil movies, but an Event Horizon, which is kind of a good movie, and a movie many years ago called Shopping, which was a terrific little movie, British independent film. And I was watching the trailer for his new film, and it was so bad, and it just looked like a film that had been constructed by AI, and it had Milla Jovovich in it and Dave Bautista. And every line and moment just seemed to be kind of algorithmically calculated to kind of match something that you'd seen years before that was cool at the time, like in the late 80s or 90s or something. And just had this kind of AI sheen all over it of just where everything, except your lead actors, was CGI, and it just looked terrible. And I genuinely thought at first it was one of those kind of fake trailers that any minute the actors would turn to the camera and go, well, this is how bad movies would be if we allowed AI to make them, so maybe don't do that, support real films and blah blah blah. But they didn't. This was the film. And then I saw this film, and I honestly don't know which one I would have preferred. Because I feel like it is just a bunch of calculated moments and designed to elicit a response. And I kind of feel sorry for Julius Onah, because I don't know how much pressure was put under him about reshoots. I don't know what he went through to make that film. I think he is probably a good director. Because he did some of the show, right? The Falcon...
I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. All I know is
he directed
the Cloverfield Paradox,
which was a good movie, which was a really entertaining, fun little movie.
Yeah, he did another like picture that I can't remember the name of, but
sorry, we should have looked him up before this. I apologize to him because not that he's watching this. And you know, it's great to have a person of color doing a huge film like this. And I thought that, you know, I just thought, great, let's go, let's see what this is like. But I think he might have really been pushed during reshoots to kind of just deliver something that wasn't as interesting.
I think so too. You know, it feels very movie by committee. It feels very like, you know, a lot of, you know, what, like what you said early on when you said that just throughout the film, something felt a bit off, you know, in almost every scene. And I feel like it's probably because like the script was very likely just butchered. You feel like so much of it, you know, was changed or left on the cutting room floor, or, you know, like there's, you know, just the character interactions feel very weird, you know, or very forced at times.
And like even tonight with this podcast, I mean, I'm sure the audience noticed at the beginning, and you probably picked up on it. So I didn't know where to begin. Like, I just didn't know how to, like, where do you even start? And then there's one or two interesting moments. Like I said, the Cole Lumley stuff, fascinating, interesting. There's an emotional core there. Even some of the Harrison Ford stuff with kind of pining for his daughter, that sort of stuff. There's an emotional core there. There's some interesting moments in that sort of opening grab scene where they're trying to get back the adamantium, which I felt that to up the stakes, you maybe should have been told what was in that canister from the very beginning. But you're not. It's just the canister, the object, the thing, the satchel, the MacGuffin. You know, but if you say to people from the very beginning, this is adamantium, the audience goes, boom, right, okay, I'm there. This is adamantium. We know how important this is. But in the church stuff where he's kind of threatening to kill the priest, there's kind of interesting stuff there. That's a character. That's a dangerous person. But instead, it just all kind of gets flattened out, and I think that's what we're looking at with a lot of movies now, is this kind of flattening out of emotion and creativity to kind of give us just a base note of, you know, emotion. But it's the same emotion you saw 5 years ago in that thing and that thing and that thing. And I actually do. I'm going to sound like an old man here, but I think films are becoming less inventive in a lot of ways, and especially big films are becoming less inventive and a less kind of exciting for it. And unfortunately, Marvel seemed to be rushing headlong into that. Now, to a certain degree, I think part of the problem is the expectations we place on the Marvel Universe. And I think we talked about this when we did our kind of State of the MCU pod a few months back. Maybe we just need to start looking at these films as just films now and stop expecting them to be everything. You know, it's got to be the most important thing. But at the same time, you still expect better than what we got.
Yeah, I mean, because like we never did like a pod exclusively talking about Deadpool and Wolverine.
No.
But I thought that was a terrific film. I loved it. I thought I thought it did all sorts of really interesting things, and I think it defied expectation, and you know, it did like, you know, kind of just bring back that feeling of excitement that, you know, I've had walking into Marvel movies and, you know, and being just thrilled and, you know, jumping up in my seat and laughing, and it did all those things that many of the past MCU films have done. Like, obviously, not every single one, but it's the feeling I want to get, and
I can I offer a counterpoint to that?
Okay.
I now want a new feeling from
Which
Marvel
is
films, and I know I'm gonna eat my words in a few months when I see Thunderbolts, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy that.
Yeah. Me too.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy Wonder Man.
That looks fun.
Yeah. But what I'd like to see from the MCU, what I'm really crying out for, is something smaller. I want to see I want to see something smaller now. I want to see a bit more character development and a bit more not even quirk, but a bit more. I mean, visual storytelling would be great, because the trouble with this is nearly everything is explained to you in the film by someone standing there going, "Oh, that's that thing," and well, this must be this and this, and none of it's done visually. Like, none of it is done visually. Sure, there are images, there are pictures happening on the screen while people talk, but a lot of the time it's pictures of people talking. And I remember how frustrated I got. Do you remember years ago when we did the X-Men Apocalypse podcast?
Yeah,
we were kind of guests on effectively the Orbital show then, because it was back before we really got rolling doing podcasts on our own. And I was so pissed off with that film, because all it was, and I know that everyone said to me, well, this is what X-Men is if you read the comics. And my argument there is, well, I'm not reading a comic, I am here to see a freaking movie. Was that you had psychics and people who could fly and people who were mutants, and you had swords and stuff like that, and they spent vast chunks of the movie standing around on fucking rocks talking. And it's just like, what is the fucking point of it? Don't do it. And it doesn't mean I want to see people fight and punch ups all the time, but do the fucking storytelling in the action, and you can do it. I know you can do it. I know people can do it. I've seen it done. It's like, and this just felt really kind of static. I mean, that thing where they're out on the ocean at the end with the battleships and the jets, that should have been the most exciting freaking thing ever. But it wasn't. Like, it just wasn't. It just fell flat. And I don't know what the problem is. I don't necessarily know what the answer is. But my feeling is, let's kind of go smaller. Let's kind of pull back a bit and do smaller stories until, maybe. I
mean, like, I think what you're saying is really valid, and I think it is like one of my major problems with this movie is that there are no quiet, moments with Sam, and like you never really get invested in how he's feeling or what he's thinking about any given thing. Right.
No hinterland, no interior kind of. I felt like it's a movie that could have done with close-ups and less music, or maybe more music put in the right place and less bombast and less. It's really hard to define what the problem is when there are so many problems, and I kind of feel a bit sorry for everyone involved, because being a film that should have been important to so many people because of how diverse it is, you end up just kind of going, nah.
Yeah.
And I hope there are enough heroics and things in it so that some little kid can go and see a Captain America that looks like him and go, oh, look, I can be that. I can be a hero. I can be, I can do more. But my feeling is that there's not enough in there for that to have any kind of weight or meaning. And although they address some of that in the film, I think they're wary now of making the films too much about that in the way that like the Falcon and Winter Soldier show was quite a lot about that. But I felt needed to be. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like, I mean, I loved Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I mean,
yeah, and even I had problems
one
with
of my absolute
pacing
favorites.
on that. I had problems with the pacing on that, and there are many people that agree with me, Liz, on the pacing issues. So.
Okay, Paul.
If not you, many people.
Okay, yeah, all your buddies, yeah. All your imaginary friends.
No. Hey Liz, I've got to find someone to listen to me. It's so weird. Like, this is a movie that neither of us really liked. We've talked for nearly an hour and a half about it.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot to unload. It was, I mean, and to be perfectly frank, I think what's most frustrating about it is that it's not a terrible movie that, like, you're just, it's excruciating to watch. It's not. It's just so, like, so bland and so disjointed, and just, it just misses the mark in so many ways that it's just a disappointment, for what it could have been, because you see all these glimmers of, like, okay, if they had gone in this direction, that could have been really interesting, or you just know there was a version of the story that was good, but it just got lost somewhere,
and that is, like you say, it is the most disappointing film. I would actually like to see, I mean, we'll never see it because they never show you this stuff, but I'd love to see a version of this movie that has the previous kind of stuff in, rather than what they put in, just to see how different it is.
Yeah.
And just to see what they did. But again, everything about it just felt perfunctory.
Yeah. And I don't think it's the worst Marvel movie. I think there are worse Marvel movies,
Funny enough, I watched a big series of interviews on this film before, and they were asking, I can't remember the guy's name. Is it Brad Winterbaum? The guy that he's kind of one of the big producers at Marvel.
I'm not sure.
And they were asking him about Eternals. And he said, we are going to bring those characters back, but it has to be the right vehicle. And I don't think this was the right vehicle for these characters. This kind of almost would have been better as a second Falcon and Winter Soldier show, like a second season of that, and where the Falcon is Daddy Ramirez, and that would have been more interesting to me. And it would have given you more time to, like, sort of care about their dynamic together. Yeah, and what a great villain, Sidewinder would have been spread out over 6 episodes rather than because how much of the movie is he in?
20 minutes?
12 minutes?
Yeah, probably less than 20 minutes. Yeah.
I've lost your. Sorry, I lost your sound a bit there. And I just feel like it just all feels very kind of undercooked, and maybe what they need to do with the Marvel movies, instead of a story committee, maybe what they need to do is take some more time off, get all the screenwriters that they want in for the next phase or the next year or two, and let them all sit together and plot out the movie the way that you used to get all the comic writers together to plot out the event.
Right.
The comic book events.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's funny because when you said,
sorry, Liz, I'm losing your sound again.
Are you?
For some reason.
Any better now?
No, I'm losing your sound. Sorry. I don't know what's happening there.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, your sound is completely gone. Maybe it's my headphones.
I can
can't
hear
really
me.
tell. Do you want to say something for me?
Hi.
No. Yeah.
You hear me now?
Not.
No. Still no.
Yeah. Sorry. For some reason, your sound is going at this end. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's going to be it for us, guys.
Okay. Right. Okay.
I think. Sorry, the
technical difficulties.
Technology
Yeah. I mean,
has
I
got
don't
the
know.
better of us. We will try and catch up again at some point soon. I think there might be some stuff on the Patreon soon from me and Liz. Liz, thanks very much for doing this. I'm sorry that it's ended this way with the technology kind of. I just can't hear you.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, yeah, if I'm still being recorded, then it's been a delight, and hopefully we will get to revisit the Marvel Universe again soon, maybe with some better news and better film, I hope. And it's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be back again soon, hopefully for Thunderbolts, and we hope a better movie. Liz, thanks very much for doing this. Goodbye, folks. Remember, you can catch us on socials at thecomiccrush.bsky.social. Please don't follow us on Twitter anymore because I'm going to be pulling back from Twitter. But you can still find me on Facebook and Insta at The Comic Crush. But again, a lot of the socials will kind of be changing in the next few months, just because of the ongoing situations there. Check out the web store at thecomiccrush.com and all the reviews and articles we've got on there. So bye-bye. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
See you soon.